Welcome. We're going to take a look here at what makes a research paper. Our goals for today are to take a look at what makes a research paper, what needs to be included in a research project, and what are the differences between a research paper and an essay. Okay, so what is a research paper? Research paper is an essay that attempts to prove a thesis by support and evidence that's from experts. That support and evidence is cited within the paper, and I'll explain that very soon here. So, what does it mean to cite a source? It just means that the writer tells the reader where the information came from. That writer would have gone out and collected information from different sources, say articles and websites, things like this, compiled that information into a research paper, and by citing the source, the writer is letting the reader know where the information came from. Okay, so how is the information cited? There are two different ways to do this. One would be parenthetical in-text source citations, and the second way is the Works Cited page. We'll go into each of those as well. Okay, so what are the in-text citations? So these are little citations that are at the end of each sentence where information has been borrowed from a source. So they're only going to be in the body paragraphs, and they're at the end of those sentences. And they just show that information came from a particular source. The sentences themselves could be direct quotes, or they could be paraphrased information that came from the source. They always have to be in MLA format, and those will only happen in the body paragraphs. For a research paper, citations are a requirement. Okay, and then the second place is in the Works Cited page. We have an example on the right side here that you can see of a Works Cited page. Works Cited is just another term for bibliography. In MLA, which stands for Modern Language Association, they happen to use the term Works Cited instead of bibliography. Your Works Cited is the page where all of your sources that were used in the entire paper or project are listed. And they're also written in the MLA format. Okay, so when are these used? So every time that you borrow information from a source and put that into a research paper or project, you need to cite the source. You'll cite the source with your parenthetical source citation or your in-text source citation, same things. And you'll also list that in the Works Cited page. If you have an in-text citation, you have to include that particular citation, that particular source, in the Works Cited page. They have to be in both places. Okay, so how are essays and research papers different? So an essay and research paper, they both have strong thesis statements. They both have factual support. Although a research paper, the factual support specifically has to come from research. They both have introduction paragraphs. They both have body paragraphs. But in a research paper, the body paragraphs must have the in-text citations. They both have conclusion paragraphs. But there's an addition to the research paper. The research paper will also have a Works Cited page that will follow the conclusion paragraph, and that also needs to be in MLA format. Okay, so what kinds of things need to be included in a citation? Got an example for you here. Let's take a look at this. So, our example is this paraphrased sentence here. Historians and archaeologists were not able to locate all of the information about the ancient Egyptians' use of medicinal herbs and other healing practices until the early 20th century. Markowitz 293. This right here is the citation. That's what it looks like. It is the writer's last name and the page number where the information came from. Notice there are no periods, no commas, no semicolons, no quotation marks, nothing else. There's no year, nothing. Last name, page number, nothing else. We have parentheses at the beginning and we have a parentheses at the end, and following the parentheses right here is the period. The period goes after the citation. Now, when you have an in-text citation like this, you must have the source also cited in your Works Cited page, okay, at the very end. This is what it would look like. Markowitz. Notice that the names are the same here, okay? It's because the person is the same. So, Ira Markowitz, okay? Medical Practices of the Ancient Egyptians, that's the name of the book. New York is the city of publishing, Martin Publishers are the publishers, and it's from 1983. So this is what the Works Cited page would look like. That's what the entry would look like. And this here, that is what the in-text citation would look like. Okay, let's take a look at another example here of an entry that would go into the Works Cited. So when you're making a Works Cited, this is an example of a magazine format. So for a magazine format, we always have author's last name, first name, period, title of the article with quotation marks around that, period inside of the quotation marks. The magazine title is underlined with a period, the date with a colon, and the inclusive pages. So if it starts on page 7 and ends on page 14, you would say 7 to 14, ending in a period. Here's an example. So we have here Gomez, which is the last name, comma, Sandra, first name, period. Mexican myths, notice it's in quotation marks, and the period is inside of those quotation marks. History of Mexico is underlined, followed by a period. That's the name of the magazine. The date is written 12th June 2012, followed by a colon, and the inclusive pages listed out and ended with a period. This is the way that the magazine format would use. Every research paper must include a strong thesis statement. That's extremely important to an essay, but also extremely important to a research paper. Must include factual support for the thesis, and that support has to come from the research. In-text citations must be in all of the body paragraphs, and the Works Cited page must be in MLA format. You always want to do your best work. At this point, what you should understand to be able to do is understand what research is, to know how to create a research process, and be able to recognize ways to stay on the right path for creating good research. I hope this information has been helpful to you. Good luck with your writing.